How many calories do I need to eat to lose weight? Well, first of all, we need to address the fact that calories matter, but not all calories are equal. So let's just have a look at two individual foods. So all of our food choices are made up of a different composition of macronutrients and micronutrients. So most of your meals are going to differ in the amount of carbohydrates, proteins and fats are in it, as well as the amount of vitamins and minerals and things like this. So if we were to take something like a fillet steak or any lean cut of beef and compare that to something like a donut, you could have 300 calories in one, 300 calories in the other, but the way that the body metabolizes and uses these calories from these two food sources is not necessarily going to be the same. But food choices aside, we can't get away from the fact that in order to decrease your excess body fat, in order to lose weight, you've got to create an energy deficit, meaning that you consume less calories than you expend. Simple. Okay, so can you lose weight without tracking calories? Of course you can, but you're just really shooting in the dark. So you can start being more active and you can increase your energy expenditure, therefore burning more calories than you consume and creating that deficit, or you can naturally change your food choices, start eating what you need to be healthier that just happen to be lower in calories and create the energy deficit, or you can just generally start eating less food and create that energy deficit. Either way, if you're not tracking it, you're not really managing it, you're just really guessing. You're shooting in the dark. So what we measure, we can manage. So just by tracking your calories, you can see your overall calorie consumption, you can see thank you. You can see your overall calorie consumption, you can see your macronutrient split, you'll understand why that's important in a minute, and therefore you can make sure that as best to your ability you're creating that energy deficit, which is what we need to elicit fat loss. You got it? Yeah. Alright, well done, thank you. Can I carry on? Yeah? Alright, cheers. Okay, so how many calories do we need to consume to decrease our excess body fat? What's that magic number? Well, there's a lot of variables that affect this, and the first thing that we need to address is our energy expenditure. So what's our total daily energy expenditure? Once we know that, then we can understand how many calories we need to be in a deficit, how many calories we need to consume in order to be under our total daily energy expenditure. Well, our TDE, as it can be shown to, is comprised of 3, potentially 4 areas. The majority of it being our basal metabolic rate, also known as our resting metabolic rate. So these are the most basic metabolic functions our bodies need in order just to survive each day. Just pumping blood around the body, working your heart, these kind of things. And it's always going to be the large majority of your energy consumption. Beyond this, we look at our non-exercise activity thermogenesis. This is just basically movement, active movement, things that we're purposely, unconsciously, and even subconsciously doing. But we just categorise it as movement. This is potentially always going to be the second highest calorie burn that you have throughout the day. The third area, which won't be daily for most people, is your exercise activity thermogenesis. So the amount of calories that you burn directly through structured exercise, going to the gym, going for a run, whatever you choose to do. And the fourth and final area is the thermic effect of food. So every time we eat something, it has a thermic effect to it. It involves some form of energy for our body to digest, metabolize, absorb the nutrients, this kind of thing. And that'll vary from one food choice to another. You've done a poo-poo? Oh, you've got a boo-boo. Oh no, how did you hurt yourself? Oh no. Peppa Pig toy? Alright.
Yeah.
So quick recap, BMR, also known as RMR, the involuntary functions that we have throughout the day. Always going to be the majority. Then unstructured movement, structured movement, food. Those are the simple 4 areas. Some of these areas we can manipulate, some of these you can't. You're not really going to be able to manipulate your BMR, RMR. That's most likely going to be pretty consistent on a day-to-day basis. You could argue that hormonal changes and things like this would affect it, but we're getting into the weeds and there's no need to do that. Focus on the areas that you can manage. So your unstructured movement is still movement that you can be conscious of. It will involve things like hand gestures when you're talking. Okay, this does burn energy, but it also involves things like doing your domestic chores around the house. If you choose to be more active by taking the stairs instead of taking the escalator when you go to a shopping mall or whatever you want to call it, park in the furthest part of the car park and walk into the shops. Then when you're at home doing more chores, doing the gardening, doing the laundry, things like this, instead of sitting on the sofa, you're going to burn more energy throughout the day. And you'll probably be surprised at the difference that can make. The actual exercise itself is where people think they get the biggest return on their investment, the biggest bang for their buck, but most people will probably be very disappointed to understand how many calories they actually burn when they're doing exercise itself. And in most forms of activity that you choose to partake in, that number's going to reduce as you get better at that activity. If we just take running, for example, if you've not run for a couple of years, you go for a jog, you're going to find it really difficult to run, let's say, a mile. But the next time you do it, it's going to be a little bit easier, and again and again and again. And the reason it gets easier is because you're increasing your aerobic capacity and the muscles' ability to tolerate the stress that they're being exposed to. But you're also becoming more efficient in doing that activity as you get fitter and you improve your aerobic capacity. So the more efficient you get at doing it, the more energy efficient you're going to be, the less calories you're going to burn doing that same distance for a similar duration or whatever. Reason being is unless you're really active doing structured exercise on a daily basis, there's no need to really worry about your exercise activity thermogenesis. Then we're looking at the thermic effect of food. So when we look at macronutrients, carbohydrates, proteins and fats, fats take the least amount of effort to metabolize, followed by carbohydrates, followed by proteins. So protein heavy diet not only allows us to remain more satiated, suppressing our appetite and allowing us to adhere to our calories a little bit easier, but it also allows us to help retain muscle mass, especially in a deficit. If you're slightly new to training, potentially increase the amount of lean muscle mass that you're carrying whilst you're in that caloric deficit, and it allows us to increase the thermic effect of food. So allowing us to burn more calories simply by manipulating our food choices. So we're looking for that magic number on the amount of energy that we need per day in order to create that energy deficit. We have to be aware that there's so many variables that can affect it. Your height, your weight, your age, your gender, how active you are, things like this. So there are some good calorie calculators available online. Just a simple search for calorie calculator, you'll be able to find one which will give you a decent estimate, as well as various equations you can use yourself and equations that a lot of these calculators are based upon. But they're still going to be working off averages and off the information that you give them and how accurate that information can be. So how accurately can you categorise yourself as being sedentary to lightly active, things like this. My personal approach is to take a week, maybe two, where you don't really change your food choices too much and you track what you usually eat. Therefore you get an idea of what you've been eating for the last few weeks, the last few months, potentially the last few years. And assuming that that calorie average is a slight surplus that has led to slow but continuous weight gain, then we need to reduce that by a good 20, maybe 30% in order to go from a surplus to a deficit. But it's completely understandable that some people don't want to take a week or two in order to get that number. They just want a number to kick off with, in which case the averages probably apply. For most ladies, it's going to be between 1,500 to 2,000 calories a day in order to maintain their body weight, depending on things like their height, weight, activity level, age, whatever. And similarly for men, it'll be probably between 2,000 to 2,500. Maybe up to 3, ladies maybe 2,500, but unlikely. Probably ladies 1,500 to 2,000, men 2 to 2,500. But it's important to remember that all these numbers have got to be taken with a pinch of salt. So not only is the number that the calculator going to give you an estimate, also the numbers that you get when you track yourself are going to be relatively inaccurate. There's always going to be some degree of inaccuracy. So if you're getting some form of processed food that comes with a label, as far as I'm aware, food manufacturers are allowed a 20% leeway, it may be less than that, but we've got a feeling, if my memory serves me correct, 20% leeway either way on the amount of calories it consumes. So if a food item says that it contains 100 calories, it may contain as much as 120. So you put that throughout the whole day, it could have a significant difference on what you think you're consuming compared to what you are actually consuming. All you can do is try to be consistent. This doesn't necessarily mean that you've got to eat the same meal every day. As long as you're making similar food choices, it means that the thermic effect of food is always going to be relatively similar. It means that the accuracy or inaccuracy of your total energy consumption, the amount of calories you consume throughout the day, is always going to be relatively consistent. Which means as long as the numbers are consistent, then on a weekly basis you can review them and then you can drop them if necessary. If you're jumping on the scales, if you're taking circumference measurements of your waist And if you find that that number's not going down every week or every couple of weeks, even if it's just by a fraction, then all you do is you just drop your calories slightly. And you just have patience, and you just have faith in the process. The final thing to be aware of is the fact that your metabolism is going to adapt. So there's a chance that as you put yourself in a deficit, your non-exercise activity thermogenesis, your involuntary movement, the movement that you're not aware of, the part of that NEAT that you're not in control of, is going to decrease as your body tries to conserve energy. Because your body understands that it's in an energy deficit, and for the majority of our time on this planet, we want it to be efficient with our energy use. It's a great evolutionary tool, the fact that we can store energy on our body. That's exactly what it's there for. It's for times of famine or where food is scarce that we've got an energy reserve. Well, now we're at a time where there's an abundance of food around us at all times, and this isn't something that we have to really worry about. We don't want that ourselves, but our metabolism is still ingrained throughout thousands, millions of years of evolution to be metabolically efficient, so to retain that body fat. So you put yourself in a heavy deficit, your body's going to react to that deficit and try to be efficient. If you put yourself in a heavy deficit, your body's going to try to slow you down and be more conservative with the amount of energy that it uses. We've also got to understand that take those factors aside, as you lose weight, you're carrying around less weight, so it's less energy for your body to move yourself around. So myself at 100 kilos, which I often am just after Christmas, which is around about, it takes more energy for my body to move me around than when I get down to the leaner side of things and I'm more 90 kilos. I drop 10% of my body weight, 10% of my body fat, and it's less effort for my body to do the basic daily functions of going up and down the flight of stairs. The less energy I need to do that, the less energy I'm expending, the less energy I have to consume in order to create that deficit. So once you have a number that you're going to start with, be consistent, track your progress, and adjust where necessary.